This is an not for which I will leave it cool down after a while when really I refreshed in not for. So here we have the repartition file. I have to go to choose this one and put in on the battery phone and plug it in. Plug in the phone now because it's the most very important. It's very annoying sometimes if software failures. I better take out the CPU. I have the cable. I have closed the header in the files because I don't waste these things. So I'm going to put the battery on. Let's refresh. Pardon, let's refresh. And one other thing I should realize that the phone must be refreshed and click on repartition. What? There's nothing. Leave me alone. It has to vibrate. And before to I must really plug in properly because otherwise I lost the interface. So there we are. We should exclude the culprit who made the threat of flashing hidden.img. Okay, there we are. We are going to send all files, but for some reason I cannot send the system.img. The problem is with the phone itself. Okay. There is a high speed because there is high speed, but I should also use a port cable with high speed, and I should make sure that my cable is not interfacing with other devices, so I must disconnect the webcam and the mouse. Actually, it's pretty dumb, but it's better to refresh the software. And when the phone have a faulty battery, or sometimes the power supply is playing with the motherboard. Well, the operating system is not malfunctioning, so the software doesn't malfunction or something, so this is a problem. I just really forgot to leave the phone a few hours, or take out the motherboard, the battery, or the power EC supply from the phone, which is holding sometimes the bad power supply on overheat, or something which after I turn off the phone I just remove the battery and shock the pins to absorb the power with a coin, and then putting the battery on and finally boot it up. But we are going to not showing you test because the firmware may fail. The firmware may fail, so repartition is checked out. The repartition file is still on, and this thing is still turned on. And a failure may occur, but sometimes reflashing with Odin or with Samsung Tool Pro, there is a problem. And what about Angry Birds Super Epic and Angry Pigs? One of the worst not for problems from all time, because it is better to exclude the hidden.img file before refresh the not4, because instead of exclude the culprit, you may take your phone to a repair Android shop to get the motherboard replaced, the chip and the power supply from the board, and get the battery replaced. See what happens. Almost we are not done, so now my phone is complaining that it's failed with a red upper right of the corner. This may fail, and now the system is not failed. Modem is what? Recovery rebooting. Now the not4 is erasing. Recovery rebooting. Installing system update. But sometimes the motherboard or the power supply or the battery sometimes get worst. But I show not for myself. Don't downgrade to lollipop or upgrade with various of repartition files and marshmallow firmware file. Don't put in recovery project when the system that .img.x4 is failed. Don't put it in recovery project on a firmware failure. Don't put your custom recovery on a malfunction firmware. Don't do it. Don't push the team recovery project or Philz recovery on a malfunction of the firmware, like marshmallow or the security level. Installing the system update. But this is the most annoying. So I reflashed. Now my phone should work. When the power may incur an error, absorbing the power with a coin after remove the battery should work. We have a nice Android moving antenna animation, but this is a reflash, but it's saying recovery rebooting, but reflash cool down the phone a bit, and then the phone sometimes cannot boot because of the power problem. I have to remove the battery out, of course. Cooling the phone a while, cooling the phone, reinstall the firmware, repartition, and this is what we can do. And now when the phone is still saying recovery rebooting, I have to use loading, but remove the battery and wait 2 minutes because the phone is rebooting. It's still rebooting, but I still wait 2 minutes or holding down the power button and the volume button and something else. I should get loading ready because sometimes I should use not the repartition, but don't use the partition. Don't really use the partition. Don't use on installing a custom recovery. Exclude repartition and get ready for test and leave this alone. I should take a look at the device behavior before to done test. There is a not4. I have to reboot. remove the battery. And when I talk about putting a metal iron between the battery pins out to shorty pins to absorb the energy from the uh, phone to absorb with that's but I better hold this coin. Hold careful and hopefully it is not damaged. Just hold like that. Don't damage the pins. Wait a few minutes or seconds. And when the phone is still saying a recovery rebooting or other malfunction, but it's still saying a recovery booting. I don't know why. Installing a system update. No command. Well, and we don't have any problem with sometimes we can get a red recovery problem, which is not a virus, so it's a red error, which means that the system can be mounted or something. So we are going to mount the system, mounted system, wipe the cache partition, and we are going to reboot the system now. Sometimes we can get the red error, so and if still persists the reboot or recovery, you can use the Philz recovery or team recovery project to bypass this, and then the phone will boot straight. I think the error or something is still rebooting in stock recovery after successfully refresh. So we can fix this issue with this Philz recovery. We should uncheck the repartition, and then we should recheck for not repartition. We are going ahead to set up this download mode. Battery moved. Turn off the not 4. Reboot the and I'm sometimes so done, so I'm not lazy, but there is a download mode. I have to do that. Sometimes we can get a DCC MMC red failure, so this problem with the supply board, not the motherboard memory, so it refreshed the stock firmware structure fully, but sometimes this error persists, so I recommend you to take care of the battery and absorb the energy and leave it to cool down for a few seconds or minutes, but not for hours. We are going to refresh the Philz recovery, and he doesn't boot. Stupid in recovery mode. We can reboot in recovery mode only with buttons and straight to system open system Android. Fail. There is no bit binary. Well, I have to redo. I cannot believe this. But we are going ahead to try out. And now the repartition, recovery, and working after I reboot recovery. So the problem is sometimes with the power from the board. And now we have to do something. The Philz recovery has been recovered. Remove the battery and leave it down, but the problem should not persist anymore. I select the PIT file, I reboot the phone, and I recheck the PIT file, and now it works. Repartition. Yeah, you should repartition this operating system for some reason, and I'm going now to put the not 4 to see what happens. There is no firmware error, so sometimes installing a team recovery project of Philz recovery can save your life, your phone's life, but what about your life? And give us epic. Well, and as you can see, now the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 doesn't boot with the recovery booting blue text upper right of the corner for some reason. Now it's booting very good. Samsung. This is very nice. Bringing back the Note 4 to life. But I don't know why it takes so long. Ow. The phone showed the setting up in 5 minutes, 2 minutes or few minutes, but don't worry, it is not a boot loop. It's still a factory set on repartition, but we can put down the battery and leave it to charge and diagnose the memory. I diagnosed the memory so that no files are lost, no Angry Birds Epic were lost, but sometimes the power or battery are playing. So I can stop that for a while. But so we are going ahead to put this cover off. When the brightness is getting low and the lights are turned on, it means that the phone is booting and welcome to Samsung. And now it's optimizing this Android for some reason. It is not very well when this Android can get a very well upgrade, but I can factory reset this application for some reason, but I can factorize this app. Now that I am finally done and Note 4 finally works very properly, I have to plug out the cable. Sometimes I need to root. So to root the device, I need a few equipment there. Now the phone is starting up the application, storage, calendar, all things. There is something I have to do. After the setup of this phone, the phone started to work correctly. So what is work? We will find out. Everything worked fine, but the LED, the red, the green, the blue. And now don't downgrade the phone for some reason. Don't downgrade, don't upgrade, and don't struggling with your firmware. You can use Alliance Shield X to disable the updates, and then you better enjoy the Note 4, even if lollipop or marshmallow without a malfunction. Kit Kat is a pathetic culprit fool, because sometimes it needs support for nothing. So we have here this Note 4 working. It's really nice to bring him back to life, but I'm sorry, but I have to charge him. I have to plug him to the charger. And here is the nice thing. Always move the intim things into private mode to remove the tit-fucked girl from this phone. Ah! Unplug the power supply. Unplug. Damn it. Unplug. Ugh. The note for upgrades and downgrades and the repartition may cause sometimes an issue with refresh. So now the phone is bringing back to life. So I have a note for myself. Don't downgrade to lollipop and recovery project while repartition failed. We have smart manager. We have here a few things and finally done. We can play Angry Birds Epic, and if we can expose the practice thing, and if we can expose, and if we can expose the practice thing and the other things, I will play Angry Birds Epic and see you later, guys.